Hey, Hammy here, back with the final video for Chapter 2 over Section 4, which talks about acids, bases, the pH scale, and a little bit about buffers. First, a little bit about acids and bases. For acids and bases, we measure them using a pH scale. Okay, an acid is a substance that dissociates in water, releasing hydrogen ions. So up here, water will naturally dissociate. So you have H2O, an oxygen, and two hydrogens. They will naturally dissociate. Actually, let's look over here. Water, it will split into an OH group here and an H plus group over here. Okay, and so this releases H plus ions and OH negative ions. Anything that releases H pluses. So back up a little bit. Water will naturally dissociate. So you have an equal number of H pluses and OH negatives. And then some of them will go back together. Then other water molecules will dissociate. Others will come back together, break apart, come back together. And that's equal all through your glass of water or your solution. Okay. When you add something that increases the amount of hydrogen ions, we say that is an acid or makes it acidic. Okay? If you add a substance that either takes up those extra H pluses or adds OH ions, okay, or hydroxide ions, then we say it is a base or basic or alkaline. Okay, so water will naturally dissociate. The pH scale is how we measure that. And it's important to note that sometimes it's referred to like this up here, where you have a water and two waters. The one hydrogen will actually leave, so you'll have an OH or a hydroxyl group. And sometimes the H will kind of connect to another water molecule, and it'll be a hydronium. Hydronium. Okay, hydronium ion, or H3O plus 1. So you still have that plus 1 charge and a negative 1 charge. But sometimes that hydrogen will attach to another water molecule, make a hydronium. Sometimes you just have an OH negative and an H plus. So a hydroxyl and just a plain hydrogen ions. Okay, if we look closer at the pH scale, it's used to indicate the acidity or the basicness or alkalinity of a solution. Values range from 0 to 14. So here's our pH scale over here, 0 to 14. At 7 is neutral. In other words, you'll have, like, pure water is neutral. You'll have the exact same amount of hydrogen ions and hydroxide ions. Okay, you'll have the same amount. Okay, as you get more hydrogen ions than OH ions, it becomes more acidic. As you get more hydroxyl ions, it becomes more basic. Okay, notice that it is a logarithmic scale. Okay, so it's 10 to the negative first power, 10 to the negative second power. Okay, so if you have a pH of 4, and let's say it drops to a pH of 3, it is 10 times more acidic. If you drop from 4 down to 2, it's 10 times more, times 10 more. 10 times 10. If you go 2 steps on the pH scale, now it's 100 times more acidic. And then 1,000 times more acidic. Okay, so understand that every pH number here, 0 to 14, you're going 10 times more acidic or 10 times more basic. Okay, so you just remember that it's not 10 times more, 20 times more, that sort of thing. It's a logarithmic scale based on 10 to a negative power. This is just a pH scale that shows us some common things and where they might be on the pH scale. You'll notice neutral is where you've got pure water. Also, our tears tend to be neutral. Things that are acidic, milk, urine, normal rainwater is slightly acidic. Coffee is acidic. Tomatoes, you start to get more and more acidic down into the acids down here, like lemon juice is citric acid. Okay, stomach acid, which is hydrochloric acid. Okay, those things are way down here towards zero. Uh, Basic stuff tend to be oftentimes what we use as cleaners: ammonia, oven cleaner, bicarbonate, baking soda, antacids, obviously. These things tend to be basic. Also, if you taste some acids, on the acidic side, acids tend to taste sour. Where if you've ever had your mouth washed out with soap because you're saying naughty words, bases tend to taste bitter. Okay, bases, bitter, and if you feel them, they almost have kind of a slimy feel sometimes, where acids tend to taste sour. The final concept is that of a buffer, not a buffer. That's something different in our area. Okay, a buffer is something that keeps the pH within limits. Again, helping with homeostasis. A good example in biology is of the human blood. Okay, our blood is normally about 7.4, which is slightly basic, slightly above 7. It needs to stay in a very narrow window. Okay, it can't drop more than 4 or go up more than, can't drop more than 0.4 or can't go up more than 0.4, or you'll have acidosis or alkalosis, which are life-threatening. Okay, your blood pH needs to remain in that window. Okay, and there is a buffer system built into our blood with carbonic acid that helps buffer that pH, whether there's more acids or bases that might get into our system. So on the last slide here is just looking at that blood buffering system, and here's the carbonic acid right here, and it's a weak acid, so it can go this way, and it will release one of those hydrogen ions there. So if there's an alkali or something basic that's added to your blood, okay, it will move in this direction and it will release more hydrogen ions to bring that pH down, because remember, going down is more acidic. Okay, if you add acid to your blood, okay, which already acids give off H pluses, okay, those H pluses will combine with the carbonic acid, the HCO3 negative, and it will go back this way, and so it'll bring that pH back up. It will absorb those hydrogen ions and bring it back up. Okay, again, because if we get too far away from that pH of 7.4, it can be dangerous for our body, for our cells. And so there's this system built in there with this buffer that can either release hydrogen ions or absorb them based on where we need to buffer that pH, and it works out as well.